By President Biden. This legislation expands mental health services and provides additional support for states and districts to design and enhance initiatives that will promote safer, more inclusive, and positive school environments for all school staff, including students and educators. In addition to healthier learning environments, the bill looks to prevent and respond to acts of bullying, violence, and hate that impact our school communities at individual and systemic levels. Bipartisan 2023. This act would give this act would give law enforcement and prosecutors new tools to prosecute gun traffickers. The bill would amend current law to clarify who needs a federal license to buy and sell firearms. New and enhanced background check review process would be implemented. This would include reviewing juvenile mental health records for individuals 16 years or older seeking to purchase a firearm. The bill would also narrow the boyfriend loophole by prohibiting someone convicted of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence as part of a dating relationship from purchasing or possessing a firearm for at least 5 years. The bill would provide states with funding to start extreme risk protection order programs, drug courts, and other crisis intervention programs. The bill protection order programs, drug courts, the bill would invest $250 million in community violence intervention and prevention initiatives. The National Criminal Instant Background Check System would receive $100 million in order to keep guns out of dangerous hands. Bipartisan, no date. The Bipartisan Safe Communities Act would expand access to mental health services and address the trauma of gun violence affecting so many communities. The bill would expand and access to community and school-based behavioral health services for children and families. There are a number of bills under this legislation dealing with gun violence and mental health. Another bill would provide funding to increase awareness of mental health issues among school-age children and youth. Training is also included of school personnel who interact with school-age children and youth to detect and respond to mental health issues. $1 billion would be used to help schools put in place comprehensive strategies to create safe and healthy learning environments for all students. School violence is addressed throughout this legislation. Bipartisan, no date. In many cases of community violence, calling 911 would be the appropriate action. In any given emergency, we need to determine whether it is more safe to shelter in place or to evacuate. Once completed, call for help using 911 and clearly describe your situation. I work and live near Camden County, New Jersey, and searched for a crisis hotline. Besides 911, it referenced the Camden County Crisis Hotline, which is 856-428-HELP. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, call the above number. This would be before visiting the Camden County Crisis Screening Center. This is to ensure that you access the most appropriate treatment available. And if at any time you feel that you're at imminent risk of harm, please call 911 immediately. Bridge no date and crisis 2022. When you call, a specialist will assess your needs and make one of 4 recommendations. Crisis 2022. New Jersey recently started an initiative focused on reducing gun violence in 5 New Jersey counties. The New Jersey Community Based Violence Prevention Program is a partnership with Youth Advocate Programs, YAP Inc., and the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, DCA. YAP partners with youth justice, child welfare, behavioral health, and public safety systems to provide community based services as opposed to youth incarceration, congregate residential housing, and neighborhood violence. YAP provides wraparound services. Hold on, I lost my spot. Job training. YAP provides wraparound services, including YAP's supported work employment, receiving on the job training, coaching, and mentoring. The youth also attend weekly group structured psychotherapy for adolescents responding to chronic stress spark sessions. The therapeutic sessions are structured to address the kind of adolescent trauma associated with violence. The New Jersey Community Based Violence Prevention Program takes referrals from systems, schools, or families. The program is constructed to serve youth who are looking at complex life challenges. Youth No Date. A national service that is available is called the Office of Community Oriented Policing Services, COPS Office. One of the main principles of the COPS Department's strategy for reducing violent crime is investing in community based prevention and intervention programs. They partner with law enforcement agencies and the nonprofit sector to implement new strategies for community violence intervention, CVI, and violence reduction. COPS core principles also include fostering trust and having legitimacy in the communities they serve. They also set strategic and enforcement priorities, measuring the results of their efforts. COPS believes that prevention and intervention can be highly effective complements to the strategic enforcement of criminal laws. COPS No Date. All right, now moving on to my intervention. So, at the macro level, with a client facing community violence issues, I would start by completing an assessment of the client. There are so many victims and so many examples of community violence out there. The assessment would include obtaining biopsychosocial information about this client, determining what trauma this client has endured, learn the development of this client up to this point in time, and pay attention to see if this client has any attachment concerns with older or younger therapists or family members. I would implement the strengths based approach with this client. I would also incorporate cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for this client. It is important to be culturally competent for this population, as many of the victims are Black, Native, or Latino Americans. These groups are disproportionately involved with and exposed to community violence. It is important to note that one could be a victim if they have witnessed a violent crime. At the meso level, with a client facing community violence issues, I would start by determining the services needed at the community level based on the assessment completed during the micro intervention. So locating services and making contacts on behalf of the client can be a time-consuming process but required in order to make successful referrals. Many initiatives reviewed include prevention interventions along with other police initiatives. A trusting relationship needs to be built between police and the community members. At the meso level, more on the meso level, the client or family member should be coached into getting involved with neighborhood or community initiatives. The people most affected by community violence need to be involved in the initiatives. Another resource that needs to be utilized at the meso level for community violence would be the use of school guidance counselors or social workers. This is a very underfunded position in most, if not all, school districts. Someone needs to advocate for these positions with the school boards across the U.S. Our children and youth are subject to community violence in our schools, and this issue needs to be addressed by anti-bullying laws and safety planning to address school shootings. At the macro level, there are so many victims and examples of community violence on a national level. Gun violence is a major cause of community violence, especially in low socioeconomic cities and neighborhoods. There are Supreme Court decisions that address the Second Amendment and gun control. School shootings have changed the landscape of gun control in the U.S. as more people push for common sense initiatives. The gun lobby on Capitol Hill has shown weaknesses. NBC 2022. From an advocating standpoint, people should determine each political candidate's position on issues affecting community violence and then exercise their right to vote. So, in conclusion, most community violence involves a relatively low number of individuals as victims or perpetrators, but its effects impact entire communities. Community violence erodes public health, causes economic disruption, and contributes to individuals and community traumas. CVIPI, no date. Community violence is a public health crisis in the United States. Racism, gun violence, poverty, and sexual assault are just some examples of community violence. I focused mainly on gun violence in this presentation because gun control is an issue that still needs to be addressed in many locations across the country. The Department of Justice launched a community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative, CVIPI. Community Violence Intervention, CVI, is an approach that uses evidence-informed strategies to mitigate violence through structured community-centered initiatives. The CVI approach must involve community residents and stakeholders. Everyone involved in the initiative must prioritize the needs of the community. Social service partners collaborate with residents and law enforcement in order to reduce violence and build a trusting community. CVIPI, no date. I believe that community violence is an issue that needs to be attended to on many fronts. And here are my references. That's all. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching my presentation, and I hope you all have learned something new today about community violence. Bye.